Hey y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 73, and my name is Jason. I'm the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and as always, I've got my co-host Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel with me tonight. What's going on, Hans?
Man, I got two things. Tonight was the annual trip to the East Texas State Fair. Ate a corn dog, a foot-long corn dog, and a sausage on a stick, and my stomach is fighting against me right now. And
this may be too much information. This is TMI.
You know, we got a full show for y'all this week, y'all. But I leaned over to my wife, and it's one of those. It's not a carnival; it's a fair. But they roll in these rides on an 18-wheeler, and they pop them up. And the whole times my kids are on the rides, I'm like checking bolts and looking at everything. But I leaned over to her and I said, man, these rides are kind of sketchy, and yet we're sending our kids on these, upside down, twirling around, all this stuff, and I'm just sitting there, shoving corn dog in my face.
Yeah, I've always said that, that's what always scared me. I never rode the rides at our little county fair and stuff because you look over there and there's some guy that's smoking a joint that holding a wrench in his hand, and he's got a 5-gallon bucket of spare nuts and bolts, and I'm like, it's probably not going to happen,
Well, I know we're going to get into the review of the Pulsar Digisight N450 very soon, but at the end of the show, Jason, I want to talk about, because I have not told you yet, but I want to talk about briefly at the end the fact that Colt has announced that they're no longer going to make their AR-15s for the consumer market anymore. So I want to...
Man, this guy, you got all kinds of stuff you're bringing up. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah,
well, I'll tell you what, I got something that I want to talk about that you don't know about, and it's going to tie right into this.
Perfect.
So this is going to be news to Hans and all of y'all. I have been having a lot of people who have been looking for some super bright additional external illuminators for their digital, night vision scopes, like the Wraith, the Photons, this Digisight we're going to talk about tonight. And in the past, I've had some really good illuminators, but the market has kind of moved past those illuminators. They've just gotten brighter and brighter and better over the years. The illuminators that are built into these optics that come from the factory are better than ever. So I knew it was time to step up my game, and I had to have something to offer. So I'm going to go ahead and announce that I, by the time this podcast airs, will be an official dealer for Sniper Hog Lights. And Sniper Hog Lights will get some Texas boys and East Texas boys at that. And so they have got some amazing lights, super bright. I have actually known these guys known of them and seen their lights and stuff in use for many years. We both are sponsors on the Texas Bow Hunter Hunting Forum and have been for many, many years. And anyway, I've spoke to them. And we're going to be selling their lights. They have got a new light that some of y'all are going to be interested in. We'll have more details. We'll be doing some reviews of them, I'm sure, in future podcasts. But this new one is called the Coyote Cannon. And this thing, and I believe them, because I have heard multiple people, this thing's brand new, that confirm this, can shine out to 1,000 yards.
Man.
And so they've got white lights, red lights, green lights, all that, but they've got infrared lights too, and that's what we're going to be selling. So anyway, there'll be more on that, but very, very soon, again, by the time this podcast airs, we'll be set up with them and hopefully be getting those in real soon. So if you're looking for an external illuminator for your Wraith or any other digital optic, hit us up at Outdoor Legacy.
Yeah, so I see their stuff on Instagram all the time. I see a lot of people using their infrared lights, and a lot of people really like them. Man, I was at the fair for 3 hours, and you're already bringing on new stuff. And
I tell you disappear on me today. You act like you had real work and conference calls and fair, and here I am,
exactly
slaving, trying to sell some scopes. So, listen, let's jump on in. I didn't know we were going to talk about Colt, so we got a lot to talk about before then. Folks, this is going to be the full review of the Pulsar Digisight N450, and there's also an N455. So let me just real quick talk about that and get that out of the way. The 450 has an 850 nanometer illuminator. That is the brighter illuminator. Some people call it visible, and we've talked about this when we've done other reviews, but essentially it just means that the illuminator puts off more of a red glow at the head of the light where the LED is. The N455 is the 940 nanometer. Some people call it invisible. It just doesn't put off as much of a glow there at the head of it. Again, I think this is really not a big issue at all. I think it's nothing to make a to-do about. All the standard illuminators that come on the Photons, the Race, the AT&X sites, they're all in the 800 nanometer range. That's what you want. I mean, I know there's going to be some people who are really concerned about it. Maybe they're hunting fox or coyotes up real close and they're worried about them seeing that red light. Again, it's a topic for another show. Generally speaking, you want something in the 800 range. And I've had a lot of people call in about these Digisights, and a lot of guys are asking about the N455, and they have no idea that by buying that optic, they're going to be able to see about half as far as they can with the 450 version, which is the 850 nanometer. So we're going to be talking about the 450, which has the brighter illuminator. And I'm telling you, if you're going to spend this kind of money on one, that's the one that you're going to want to buy, at least almost everybody. This unit is $1,299. So it is digital night vision, but it's not cheap. It is the nicest digital night vision scope that you can buy. Pulsar, I mean, I'm saying that, and somebody's going to tell me there's something else out there, but I don't know what it would be. Pulsar is known for making high-end optics. A lot of people nowadays just know them for thermal, but they've been in the digital game long before they were in the thermal game, and they've made this Digisight line for a very long time with a lot of high-end scopes. So I'm going to go over some of the specs on this scope real quick and just try to introduce you to the scope and what it is. It starts at a 4.5 power base magnification, and it goes up to 18 power with digital zoom. It's got a 1280 by 720 HD image sensor. It's got an AMOLED display. That is the same display that the Pulsar Trails and all those units have. It uses the same IPS battery pack system. Now, Hans, are you holding one up right now if you're watching on YouTube?
I've been over here Vanna
Perfect.
White.
Good, Vanna White.
Model.
So anybody
if you're watching on
that's
YouTube, check it out.
That's right. If you're on YouTube, check it out. Basically, if you've seen a Pulsar Trail thermal rifle scope, these look extremely similar. On the top of it, all the button configuration is the same. The buttons do the same things as they do on the Trails. And again, we've got the same familiar IPS battery system. It does come with an IPS 5 battery pack on the side of the optic. It also has the ability to use the other IPS batteries, which there's an IPS 10, which will get you to almost double the run time. It also, Pulsar has the, I just went blank on the name, BPS packs, which will allow, or B-packs, I'm sorry, I forgot what they're called. We've got them. They basically hold 3 AA batteries.
Yep.
So you can put those in there if you want that. So a lot of power options. It'll also take any external USB power if for some reason you needed it. It does have video recording. This is something I know I'm just keep interrupting myself and stopping, but it says that it has video and audio recording. Mine is not recording audio, and nowhere in the menu, which again looks just like the Trail menu system for the most part, is there an option to turn the audio off or on. There is a microphone I can see on the bottom of it. I was so concerned thinking that maybe, this thing's brand new. We just bought them from Pulsar. I thought, well, maybe there's a firmware update. Well, sure enough, I connected it to my phone. There is a firmware update. I did the update, still no audio. So I don't know. It was too late by the time I figured this out to get Pulsar on the line and figure out if this is something that's coming in a future update. It's possible. I'm really not sure, but I know this. Mine is not recording audio, and there is no ability that I can find to turn the audio on in the menu system. So right now, video only. It does have the Stream Vision app. Same thing, again, that the other Pulsar units take. You can connect your phone to it. You can live stream to it as long as you're within, a close proximity, a few feet away. You can control the scope, start recording, stop recording, all that. Also has picture-in-picture function, which is a really cool feature. It has 10 different reticle options. It has 6 different color palettes. It has 5 shooting profiles for, 5 different rifles you could zero it on. It's rated for a 12-gauge shotgun all the way up to a 375 H&H rifle. It is rated for down to negative 14 degrees Fahrenheit. And it takes all the same mounting options. Again, I keep saying all this as like the Pulsar Trails and the other Pulsar scopes, but that's what this thing is. It looks like a Pulsar Trail. So it comes with a standard 8.5-inch long, about 9-ounce mount in the box. It is non-quick detach. It has 2 thumb screws on it. And it's really good if you're going to put it on a bolt-action rifle with a Picatinny rail because it allows you to move this scope back to get the proper eye relief. It'll work just fine for an AR or anything else that has a Picatinny rail. If you would like, you can buy the optional Pulsar QD mount. They're $100. You can put that on the bottom, 3.5 inches long, 3.5 ounces in weight. And they are quick detach, return to zero. You can also use the Zero Delta D-Lock mount, $250. A really nice high-end mount. That is an option for it as well. And last but not least, it weighs 29.25 ounces with the battery on the side of it. And I don't think I left off anything too major off there. Hans, do you recognize anything I left off?
No, I mean, a man of very few words like yourself, which
exactly,
exactly. No, you always do a thorough job with the specs, so good job on that. Hey,
not always, but
yeah. So we're going to get into really. Jason and I are going to talk about what we like about the scope and the normal routine on a full review. But I want to start it off because as you and I are, we're both big Pulsar Trail fans, thermal scopes, and if you are used to the button layout and the functions and the menus and everything that's associated with the trails, you're really going to like this scope. And that was, to me, the best part of it. Now, for somebody that's never owned a trail, they'll probably think, well, that doesn't do anything for me because, I'm not used to using those buttons or using the menu. But Pulsar makes these optics and scopes very user-friendly and easy to use. And that has always been one of the advantages that I've thought with working with their optics and really, just seamlessly being able to switch back and forth between that and this and not missing a beat, with the buttons and all the similarities that are involved with that. That, to me, was one of the biggest advantages.
Yeah, I'm moving my mic back over here because I was showing people something. I want to say real quick, if you were watching this on YouTube, you just saw me do something and probably like, what in the world? Hans doesn't even know you can do this.
Don't look at the man behind the counter or behind the curtain.
The illuminator comes off this thing.
I did not. And it's got some screws in it. I didn't even mess with it.
No, you don't need screws. You don't need screws. I told Hans the other day, we were on the phone. We had just gotten these things out. Neither he nor I are going to read the manual or anything. And I was like, it looks like this illuminator must come off. And he was like, I don't think so. And I was like, no, it's got to. It's got something looks like it should come off. I messed with it. I pulled, I pried, nothing. And I finally got to looking around and I found where it showed how to take it off. Basically, and I'm not going to tell Hans because he'll be messing with it.
No, that's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, I've already got a reputation at Pulsar that I think that I use these things too hard and that I break them. So I don't even want to mess with it. I don't even want to jack with it.
Well, I own it, so it's not theirs, so don't mess with it. But the illuminator does come off.
Okay.
There's a small cap that will cover the port where it connects in, and then it leaves you a very, very small Picatinny rail with one lug on it, and that would allow you to instead place an external illuminator there on a mount if you didn't want to use their mount. Really, that was an ingenious idea, and when you see this thing come off, you'll be like, oh, wow, good idea. So that does give you the, again, the ability to do that without having to mount the IR on on your rifle somewhere.
Now you got me. Now you got me wanting mess with this thing now.
I know you're gonna. I shouldn't have. Yeah, I shouldn't have,
like
folks. If he could see me right now, I know he would be messing with it,
picking out a scab or something. It's just
he's gonna try.
Yeah.
So I agree with Hans, man. It's got a the button layout is very similar. This is one of those things that for he and I both, there was no learning curve for us because we've just used the trail so much, and the buttons do the same thing. One thing I really like about it is that the focus is a knob that's on the top, again, like the trails, but it's nice. And I know that the standard focus is, a ring on the front, and I get that, and I understand that, normal scopes need that. But that little knob, you can just reach up there, and I just feel like you can fine-tune it so easy compared to a big ring. So I really like it.
Well,
go ahead.
and another thing, too, I think Pulsar usually does a good job in considering is designing the layout of these scopes for ambidextrous use. And so many times on other scopes, other manufacturers, they kind of pick a side. Either we're going to put the buttons on the left or we're going to put the buttons on the right. But the Pulsar does a good job. They put everything right there on top. So, for people that listen to this show, everybody knows that Jason is a big fan of the buttons either on top or on the left side of the scope. So, I mean,
that's because I'm right-handed, and that makes the most sense for 99% of the population.
Yeah. So if you put the buttons on the right side for Mr. Jason Robertson, he's going to be happy. He's going to give you 2 thumbs up.
No, you got to put them on the left side for me. Free hand, remember?
Left hand, yeah. So
left hand's a free hand.
They do a good job. Everything right there is on top. No matter if you're right-handed, left-handed, it makes it easy to use.
Yep.
And you're right. The focus knob on top, that was one of the things that the Thermion doesn't have. It has the focus ring. That was a big change between the Trail and the Thermion. But I do like the knob on the top. It's easy to focus. You got the eyepiece diopter focus. You got the objective lens focus. All works well and no issues. Again, if you've used the Trail, even if you've used a Trail with a buddy, you don't own it, but you've used it with a buddy, and you're looking at getting some, you will not have any problems at all, working this scope.
Absolutely. The other thing I need to mention is the illuminator has, I guess, basically 4 brightness settings. It has off. So if you're going to use it in the daylight or you just don't need it, it counts. It's not very bright at all.
Not as bright.
It's less bright at all.
Wow, I think that's a stretch calling it 4 different brightness settings.
Okay, it's got 3 brightess settings and off. Well, technically, I guess it's got 5 because you can take the whole thing off. So that's another setting, off. So, oh my gosh, we're never going to recover from this. So it oh man, you got me tickled now. So it does have 3 brightness settings and then off, and those are controlled by a button. They're on the back of the illuminator. So that is a nice thing. I always ran it on high because really, to be honest, what I was looking at most of the time was 150 yards. Well, I did have some hogs one night at about 100, but the vast majority of my stuff was 150 to 250 yards. Now, that brings up the next question. Put Hans on the spot. How far do you feel like you can reasonably see with the built-in illuminator on high on a black night, no moon? Because that's what everybody wants to know. How good is it right out of the box?
Yeah, so I would say that the picture clarity is very good. I'll start out by saying that. Picture quality, very good. I'm going to say on a dark night, illuminator on high, I'm going to say max is about 250 as far as being able to see and identify the animal that you're pointing it at. And that is, with no obstruction of view, with not very tall grass.
That's right.
That's if you don't know, when it comes to digital night vision, any slight obstruction in your view, if you're behind a limb, that's going to throw up a very bright light that's going to reflect back and blind you, basically.
I use these things a lot off my back porch because my house sits up high overlooking my pasture, and I've got a tree down there that's about, probably 30 yards from my house, a big tree, sweet gum, and it's got some limbs hanging down, and I have a very hard time with digital scopes with when you throw that illuminator out there, even though I can see under them, I mean, I can see under those big limbs, the light hits that, and then the scope, and this is something a lot of people don't know how these scopes work, they automatically adjust their brightness. So if you take it out in full daylight, which you can do, it won't hurt it, it adjusts the brightness of the screen. Well, what happens is when that infrared light, you and I can't see it, but the scope does, when it hits those limbs and leaves, it bounces back. Well, that's bright. So then the scope readjusts, the image sensor readjusts the brightness based on the brightest thing, which is those limbs at 30 or 40 yards. Right. So now everything is dark underneath it. So I have a lot of hard time with that. I got to kind of get in the right spot if I'm using them off my back porch or something. So I agree with Hans. 250-ish yards, right. A black night, no problem. The other night we had almost a full moon, super bright, crystal clear, and I had a group of hogs down there at 325, and I could clearly see them. I mean, I could count them. I could see them really well, but I'm talking at the same time, that night I had a group of hogs at 150 yards that I could see with my naked eyes. I mean, I couldn't see them well, but I could make them out. So, I mean, it was bright that night. Yeah. So, wasn't surprising. But, yeah, I would say if I was going to own a scope of this caliber for this much money, I would absolutely upgrade the illuminator just simply because if I'm going to pay $1,300 for a digital scope, I want to be able to see a long ways, and that's the only thing holding this thing back is the illuminator. I'm not saying it's bad, but I will tell you for this kind of money, I think it ought to be better. I mean, I was a little disappointed. Now, Pulsar Specs, they're normally really good on their digital optics, giving a realistic range. The specs on this say it's 550 yards identification range. I have no idea how or what, but I've got a tree line at about 450, 500 yards, and there is a 0% chance on a black night that I can see that tree line, much less. I mean, you could be down there doing jumping jacks and driving your truck in circles, and I would not see it. So I don't know where that number comes from.
Yeah, I took it out in two different scenarios. I took it out on a very bright night and a very dark night. And the dark night, I was trying to find deer, so I would use my thermal to see where the deer were, and then I'd put the night vision scope up. But there were deer about 200 yards away, and through this, and again, the grass was pretty tall, but when they lift their heads up, I could see the reflection of their eyes. I could see them clearly, but I could not see them as well as I wanted to until they raised their head up. They blended in so well. So I do agree with you. I think the 550 yards might be that's like going.
Might be a stretch.
That's like telling your buddies that you can still bench press 350 pounds, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a little bit of a stretch,
we haven't talked about it, which is obviously the most important thing to most people, is the image quality. And you mentioned it there briefly. I do want to talk about it. The image quality is excellent. It is sharp. It is crisp. It is clear. And I'm going to tell you something. Hans and I right now are biting our tongues. We made an agreement before this show. We would not compare this to the Sightmark Wraith yet.
Tough. It's tough.
It's tough because that's the most popular. The Wraith is the number one most popular digital scope on the market today, and that has ever hit the market. And everybody's clamoring to get it, and we're getting these phone calls every week, getting emails. Hey, what do you think about the Wraith compared to this scope? Well, the good news is in a week or two, we're going to give you a head-to-head review comparison of the two. So we don't want to compare it, but the one thing I will say is that the image quality is great, and you're not going to get any of the lag that you sometimes see with you see it with some of the X sights, you see it with the Wraith, where when you move around the things, to be honest, I think it's processing power. And the unit is not processing fast enough, the image, and things will kind of tilt until you stop. Yep. So they got to catch up. I noticed it on I'm talking about the Wraith, but I noticed it on those videos a lot worse than it is in person. But with the this Digisight, this N450, none of that.
Yeah.
It is extremely responsive and a very, very crisp, sharp image, which you would expect from a $1,300 optic.
Yeah. We're going to charge you $5 every time you say the word Wraith, but we are not.
Okay, I won't say more.
But as far as I'll recap the likes. The great picture image, the easy setup and use. They've really got a great unit here. Well, I'm about
picture
to
in picture. I like that.
I'm a huge fan. Anybody watching any of my videos, they know I use it a lot. So, but during the daytime use, let everybody know what it looks like, because it is a difference between this and the Wraith as well.
Yeah, but you said it again. We're not going to talk about it. Okay, it is black and white during the day. That is an important thing. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people have the misconception that for this price, this thing is full color. It is not. It is black and white during the day. And folks, this is what I always tell people. I said about the photons. I said about all these. I mean, the older Digisight models. Can you use them during the day? Yes. Are you going to want to use them during the day? No. It's just there's something about looking at a black and white video screen in the daylight when for your whole life you've seen God's beautiful creation and all the colors. And you can open your eyes and look and see it in full color. Then you look through this and it's like looking through a closed circuit camera like at the bank recording. It just doesn't look right. At night, it looks great. You don't think about that because you can't see anything. But during the day, I just say no. If in my opinion, and again, I'm not talking about just this scope. It's any of these that are black and white during the day. The cheapest Walmart Tasco scope, I don't know, whatever they sell, the cheapest Walmart scope will be better during the day than one of these optics, just because you're looking through a glass scope, full color, not looking through a video. Now, if you go out hunting and it's an hour before dark and you don't want to carry two rifles or switch scopes around, yes, it will get you by. It's just fine, but you're not going to want to go deer hunting in the daylight with it. It's one of those things that'll get you by in a pinch, but it's in my opinion not ideal.
Yeah.
Going along with what you said, likes. Gosh, we just keep saying the other word, Pulsar Trail, but we do. I mean, the function, the layout, the ergonomics, the battery, the stream vision, all of that. One thing, and I'm going to compare this to the Photon for a second. We're not going to do a full review compare it to the Photon, but one thing is, and I'm thinking this in my head, and I do not want to confuse people, but basically the same parent company that owns Pulsar is Yukon Optics, and that's who makes the Photon. So that's how it uses stream vision and all that stuff. So that's why the Photon is very similar in a lot of ways to the other Pulsar scopes. But one thing that I really like on the Digisight is the menus and all the text around the screen are very easy to see. That's been a complaint on the Photons, which is that things are hard to see around the screen. The way they used a blue font and it just blends in and it's kind of difficult sometimes. And again, I know that seems like a weird thing to compare, but it's that I know they're both made by, the same parent company. So I see the similarities, but they did it a lot better in this Digisight. So I'm a huge fan. Now, this is the question that people have keep on asking me, and it's a great question, and I said I was going to answer it. And is it worth $1,299? Is it worth $1,300 for this optic?
I don't think you can do it without mentioning the Wraith.
That's just about to say, and now we're back to you got to compare it to, and not just the Wraith. You've got the Wraith, you've got the Photon RT. $500 now.
Well,
I mean,
let's do this before you get into that. Let's go over what our dislikes, and then you can get into the worth. If it's worth
dislikes are $1,299. I'm done.
I'm going to the dislikes. I agree with you, Jason. I think it could use a little bit more powerful illuminator. I know it does have 4 modes, including on and off, but I think it needs 5 modes. One more brighter mode on it, and it'd be nice if you, it'd be nice if you could focus the IR
Yeah,
light.
that's a great point. Something we didn't talk about. The illuminator is fixed. It cannot be focused.
Yeah.
Now, in their defense, it doesn't really need to be. They've done a great job of mounting it and focusing it, but you do feel like if I could
guess-
just get a little more spot to this thing, just a little,
Yeah,
a little
and-
brighter is what you want to do.
And maybe focusing in the correct term. Maybe it's just tightening
No,
the beam and
No, that's focusing it. No,
Yeah.
you're using the right term. I mean,
Yeah.
that's external illuminators.
just-
You want them to be focusable.
Yeah,
so you're
I just
right.
don't know if I'm describing it right, but definitely, to have that tighter beam for longer distances and the wider beam, obviously, for
You just want it brighter, essentially. I mean, really is what
Yeah,
you're, that's
you
the
know,
point.
similar
Yeah,
to the W.
I think it's a
word, but-
great point. I really do have to admit that this being able to take this illuminator off the side is an ingenious little scenario. I'm going to show you how to do that after this show.
And you can pick up a sniper hog light apparently from Outdoor Lakes.
That's
if
exactly
you're
right.
running.
There
I've
you
seen
go.
Them big old bad boys.
That's right. No, you definitely. I think that most people are going to want to upgrade that illuminator. That's
Now,
in my opinion.
And to make sure, now I've seen those sniper hog lights. Some of them are pretty big.
Some of them are real big. They don't. They have smaller ones, but some of them are big.
You use a tripod for your rifle and then a tripod for your IRR.
That's right.
And just lean
That's
it
right.
over.
Some of them are big.
They
yeah.
make great stuff. No, there's a lot of people that love them, and they're good stuff.
Well, I think that going back to the dislikes, if I could nitpick it to death, I guess it's pretty long. I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't know. I mean, not a big deal. The weight is really not bad. At what did I say here? What's my spec say? 29.27 ounces. It's not light, but I'm used to thermal scopes. It falls right in line with the way they feel. Yeah. There's a lot more to like than there is to dislike. I mean, I'm trying to find things to not like about it, but honestly,
it's the price.
I'm going to get back to it. I just think it's the price. I just and look, if somebody's watching this and you're going, well, y'all are trying to find things. Well, we've talked about this before. It's the same thing that we do to Trijicon and to Envision, and it's when you've got something that it costs 2 or 3 times more than the competition, it needs to be 2 or 3 times better all the way around in every way. And I'm going to nitpick it because, if you're paying that much more, you need to be getting that much more. And so again, nothing against Trijicon or Envision. They deliver with their image quality, but we were really hard on them in those reviews. We're hard on this because you're paying a lot of money. So is it worth it? My answer to that is this. This is going to be a cop-out answer. I can't wait for the emails. If you want a high-end digital night vision optic and you don't want thermal and you want a high-end optic, you want the benefit of these Pulsar removable rechargeable battery packs, if you want picture-in-picture, if you want the Stream Vision app, if you want all of those things combined with a good image and ergonomics, then yeah, I think it's worth it. Would I pay the extra $800 over a Wraith or a Photon personally? I personally would buy a Wraith, an AR-15, 1,000 rounds of ammo, and take my family out to supper, and then decide what to do with the rest of the money that I
that's
in
it,
my
folks.
pocket. But
you call up Jason Robertson with $1,300 in your hand, he'll talk you into putting $800 back in your pocket. How about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, but honestly, here, I'm going to sell some of these. Okay, I think they're good enough. I think people are buying them. I've seen reviews firsthand from users online. They love them. I think they're great. I just think, in my opinion, if I'm going to spend $1,300, I'm going to spend $1,900 and buy the Pulsar Core RXQ30V. I'm going to buy a digital scope a thermal scope that's still going to have a couple 100-yard range or very close to it. And, I know you can nickel and dime yourself till you get way on up there, but I don't know. I mean, it's nice, but what do you think? I mean, would you pay $1,300 for it?
No. No. I will say this: the picture-in-picture is not worth an additional $800, but the picture-in-picture.
How much? Hang on, picture-in-picture isn't worth how much?
An additional $800 on top.
Oh, yeah,
of it.
okay,
Right. But
right. Yeah, right.
The picture-in-picture, and I talk about it a lot to people. People call up and ask. It is a great benefit. It's like I said, not worth $800, but you're right.
But hang on, Hans. Hang on. So let me ask you this way, and then I'll let you carry on. But is the picture in the picture, the battery pack, the stream vision, the better image quality, is the package? I mean, is this whole package, what is it? Well, I don't want to ask you what it's really worth, but I mean, is it worth $1,300 to you, the whole package?
It's you look at the difference in no. I would say it is worth an additional $400. If it was $899.
Ooh, if it's $899, it'd be
maybe $999. I don't know.
Yeah, all over it. $899, $999, $899. That's the number.
I'd say $900. I think it's worth $400 more for those upgrades, because they are upgrades. You are getting a better picture, but that $1,299 price is up there. And
I want to talk this out real quick. And I know we're running out of time.
Well, like you said, you're into entry level thermal range. Right,
you're
there.
Getting in that neighborhood. And see, here's the deal: Pulsar's had these Digisights for years, and all the way back to the N450s. Those were great optics. We sold a bunch of them. They were $1,300 at one time. They were $1,500, and I used to sell a bunch of them. They were great optics. They weren't as good as this. They didn't have video recording. They didn't have battery packs. They didn't have all these things. But that was also 2013. It was 2014. Entry-level thermal was $5,000. There was no such thing early on when I was selling those as a photon. The N450 was the least expensive digital night vision scope on the market at $1,300 to $1,500, depending on what the price had kind of changed. So it's a huge improvement. They've added a whole bunch to it, and I understand. I'm not saying that they can even economically bring this price to $899 with this whole package of goods. I get it, but I do think it's going to be. It's you really have to want all these features to make it. Worth that to you. If you got the money and you really want them, then yeah. I mean, there is a lot of convenience factors. You're not going to be running external battery packs. You're not going to be running external DVRs and all these things that some of the older scopes do. So, it could be worth it to you in that sense. But any final words on that?
No, if you're looking to pick one up, man, we've laid out a great case for buying it.
We're the worst salesmen. Hey, you know what, folks?
I was about to tell everybody to go buy some. Yeah, I was about to tell everybody where they could go buy it, but after that,
listen, we're going to have them. I'm going to stock them. People are going to buy them.
Yeah.
Again, I want to be very clear, and I mean, I think anybody who's listened to this knows. We're not saying anything bad about the scope. There's nothing negative truly about the function, the design. No, it's all comes down to the dollars and cents.
Yep.
And so, yeah, if you want one, I am going to have some in stock. We'll probably also have a couple demo units. But we're gonna have them in stock at Outdoor Legacy.
Yeah.
And so you can go check those out there. If you want to know more about it, you can feel free to call me anytime. And at the end, we'll give you the phone number. You can go, check that out. Heck, I'll give it to you now. It's 877-350-1818. And you can call, and I'll be glad to answer any questions, compare it to any of the other optics, and let you know what I think. But that's my basic, take on the whole thing. I think it's a beautiful optic, great optic. I just think personally the price is a little bit high. And listen, folks, y'all come to us for honest information, and we're not going to sugarcoat it. And this is an honest review.
Yeah, and for everybody out there that says that we only say good things about Pulsar, I guess this is your show.
I don't think this is negative. I mean, we're not being mean. I mean, but yeah.
You can find these at OutdoorLegacyGear.com. If you pick one up, nobody's going to think that you made a bad choice. And like I said, great optic. Put a sniper hog light on it, you'll be good to go, man. Good to go. So early in the show, we talked about we don't have a lot of time. We always do this. We run way long on these shows, especially when I give Jason the mic for an extended amount of time.
Especially when you get me tickled about something.
He turns 5 minutes into about 20, but
pot calling the kettle black.
Exactly. So I mentioned on the show earlier that Colt has now suspended manufacturing and sales on the consumer side of their AR rifles. Boy, I tell you, it seems like every week we have news related to AR rifles and the Second Amendment,
gun control.
And man, did this light another fire. And it is, everybody is dogging Colt for taking this step. I think there's more to read into this. And I was talking to, I've got a good friend I hunted with last night. He's a veterinarian here in East Texas. Very political gentleman, very well connected nationally when it comes to politics. And he had some thoughts on it, and I kind of agreed with some of the things he said. But, and if you have a Colt AR, more power to you. No big
burn
deal.
it. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
But I do not personally know anybody that owns a Colt AR or hunts with one. Now, that doesn't mean anything. All it means is there's so much competition right now in manufacturers that are producing great ARs. There's a lot of different mom and pop gun manufacturers that are building ARs, and Diamondback is a company that I use that makes a great AR, a great affordable AR. And I think there's just so much competition in that consumer market side that they said, you know what, that side of the business isn't going great. We've got big government contracts. Let's just keep manufacturing on that side. I think the timing of it was just poor, because I do think that they are a 2A supportive company. I just think
I would hope so.
Well, and a lot of
that'd
people
be kind of like Twinkies hating high calorie diets.
And I will say this, people have mentioned the fact of the way the company is run because they've gone through bankruptcy before. And they're trying to avoid some similar things, which, again, the timing may be terrible. I just think that there's so much competition that they said, you know what, it's not worth it for us to do it anymore on the consumer side. We're not we've got big government contracts that we can't even keep up with. They're taking all of our space. When you're talking about manufacturing, it's all about being able to produce the product, the space that you can operate in, operating costs, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that this was maybe I'm seeing the silver lining. I don't think this was them making a statement against AR style rifles for regular people like you and me. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe you can shed some more light on it. But
I'll say this: Hans really did not tell me we were going to talk about this, so I didn't have any, and I didn't know what he thought about it. But I agree with everything you just said, and I can guarantee you that the opinion that you and I are taking on this is going against the mainstream of gun owners. I've seen just tons of negative stuff about them. And here's my thing. I do not own not only a Colt AR, I don't own a Colt firearm, period. I've got no dog in this hunt. Colt is not a brand that I even think about. So my take is exactly the same thing. I figure that I don't know anybody. I'm not saying they make bad rifles. I don't know anybody that's buying them. I don't know anybody that's using them. They have not, as far as I know, even tried to promote their AR-15s in the consumer world in I don't know how long. I just don't see them out there. I see companies like, Diamondback and a lot of others, a lot of smaller companies that are really building themselves a brand.
Before you get in, if you look at a lot of the styles of their ARs, from what I've noticed, they don't seem like they're designed for hunting. They don't have a lot of them don't have the long handrails on them with, the Piccatinnies on them. They have, most of them have the tall front sights on them. They're just, they look like something you'd use for government or military. They're not really designed for the hunting.
Yeah, and I don't think. But I think you're right. I think that a lot of that they have not pushed into the hunting market, and so anyway, I don't know anything about them. But when I heard it, the first thing I thought was, this is probably a company who made a business decision that this isn't profitable. We're getting our rear end kicked. And on the other side, we've got government contracts that we're making tons of money on. We've got, other consumer handguns and firearms that we are doing good with. So why continue to make these something we're not selling? And so I'm just talking out loud here. My thought is, isn't this exactly what the liberals and the mainstream media want? Is somebody makes a business decision, they jump all over it, throw it out in the news, and we're all up in arms and we're trying to eat one of our own. I know that bigger companies have done even dumber things that don't make any sense politically, but I guess my question is, they are a firearm company, and liberals hate firearms when they're owned by, especially by the citizens. What brownie points do they get?
Yeah.
What good does it do them? Right now, the Democrats aren't going, "Oh yay, everybody go buy Colt stuff now." I mean, no. It's, so I don't. It doesn't make any sense politically for them to do it. So
what I hope that they didn't do with this opportunity, it was to cover up the fact that they weren't doing well on the consumer side, and tried to use this as some sort of righteousness that we're above that, and we're not going to we're not going to add to the problem of what they think is a problem. I hope that they didn't use that for righteous indignation or anything like that.
Well, I would think this, and again, we're just randomly, we don't even know
really didn't talk about
but
this.
I mean, we're just going all over. But I would say, I'm just thinking this out here. If you're going to try to score brownie points with the left by stopping making ARs for civilians, then why not say that? Why not say we're stopping because we believe they're dangerous and they're weapons of war, and we're not? I mean, why not say it if you're going to do it? If that was really their motivation, what sense does it make? So I don't know. I can't see anything other than a business move here, and it doesn't really affect me because I didn't own Colt yesterday, and I'm probably not going to own them tomorrow, and it doesn't have anything to do with this decision. So I think it is what it is.
I think it was poorly thought out, poorly planned, poorly delivered, awful timing, and just a bad reflection of everybody involved in it. So, but anyway, thank y'all for joining us again this week. Jason, tell me where you can
folks,
find them.
One quick thing. Yeah. If y'all disagree with us on this, I mean, look, this is, if you completely disagree, let me give you Hans's email address and his personal cell phone number.
This is not we're not defending Colt at all.
No, I don't. I'm giving you a hard time. Yeah, I don't want to argue about it because I really don't know.
I think it's covering up other problems other than the obvious
financial problems.
Yeah, so y'all go check out Jason over at OutdoorLegacyGear.com. You can find him at 877-350-1818 if you're interested in purchasing night vision or thermal gear. Check him out. You'll save some. You probably save some money. He'll tuck you into something else. I promise.
I'll talk you out of buying a $1,300 optic into a $500 optic.
exactly right. Also, you can find him on YouTube at the Outdoor Legacy Gear. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. I just put out my full review of the Pulsar Thermion XM50 that went live yesterday. You can also find me on Instagram at HansETX. That's HANSETX. And for Mr. Jason Robertson, I'm going to say goodbye from both of us. There you go. Y'all take care. We'll see y'all next Thursday. Stay safe in the fields. Keep making them bacon pancakes.